Our next storyteller is Jay Nunez, and he was a Peace Corps volunteer in El Salvador. And like a lot of Peace Corps stories, it begins with a long bus ride and ends with, in 10 years, I'll look back at this and laugh. Please give it up for Jay Nunez and his story, The Smell of Loneliness. Yes. Oh, this is his first time, too.
You all doing all right? I don't see you. Okay. There's not too many things in life that actually scare me. You guys okay with that? There really isn't too many things in life that actually scare me. I think if I think about my time in my life, thinking about the things that have actually scared me, there wouldn't really be too much. Maybe the occasional snake bite that I've sort of experienced, or trying to sell a motorcycle in El Salvador or in Colombia with my friend that's in the audience. But there's one thing as I think about this that absolutely gives me this like shivers, is actually walking in to a crowded bus. And I'm not talking about like just a crowded bus that you kind of see on a Muni station. I'm talking about a crowded, tight bus. And this fear originated for me back in 2001, as Will was mentioning, that I was a Peace Corps volunteer. And at that time, I really thought that like I was going to change the world. I was assigned as a municipal development aide. At 5'10", I was one of the tallest people in El Salvador. And my role where I lived, essentially where I lived, was a port city, just the northern part of the country, or the western part of the country. And my role was essentially to go to these rural communities and work with small rural entrepreneurs. And so more often than not, I would actually be on a form of transportation. And the interesting thing about El Salvador is that the transportation and the modes of transportation are so very much unique that you find yourself thinking like, what am I doing in this form of transportation? It's not like an Uber pool where you tell the person, do you mind changing the station, as a person next to you is changing their text. No. This form of transportation is through bus. And buses were recently imported, or were imported in the late 80s in El Salvador, and they had a new lease for life. They were painted beautifully. The drivers had put in these amazing and elaborate sound systems, and while they didn't always work, man, you look really good actually being on a bus, right? It's like cumbia, like you're really in it. And so one afternoon, I remember actually going outside of my community into the small rural area, and I was meeting with a group of young women entrepreneurs, and we finished our meeting, and I was waiting to go back on the bus, and so one woman invited me to eat some pupusas. And if you know pupusas, it's a Salvadorian tradition where you have the smothered cheese with like some resemblance of meat inside, and it's filled with beans. And I was so excited that I had actually two. And I saw the bus coming, and I realized, okay, I gotta eat, I gotta wrap up my food and eat. And so the one thing about El Salvador and transportation is that you actually can't, there's no way that if you miss a bus, you're gonna actually be there for hours on end, and especially you're going in rural communities, you're actually going to wait a whole lot longer. And so as I approached the bus, I realized really quickly how crowded the bus was. There was like two men hanging out of the front door, just like the bus was crowded, really, really crowded. And there I was, making my way, and the rock star that I am, trying to pretend to be a rock star, making my way to the back of the bus, in this sort of yellow bus. There's music going on, there's cumbia going on, the LED lights are like flashing. So imagine like having a party in the middle of the day as you're riding with Muni with 150 people around you. If you can kind of paint that picture and then add 25 people, that's sort of the daily experience, right? So there I am, in the back of the bus, and it's really crowded, we're really tight. And about 30 minutes go by, and again, the commute is about an hour and a half to my home. And about a half an hour goes by, and I hear, like, what the hell is that? I thought, like, what is going on, right? And so I felt at that point something was going wrong, right? Like, what's going on here, right? Like, and then I heard moments later, I'm like, oh no, like I'm losing it, right? So there it is, something inside of that pupusa is like coming to life, right? And it's definitely coming to life as I'm actually on a bus with all these people. And so I'm like, okay, cool, I'll try my techniques. I'm the youngest of 9 children. I understand sort of how to wait for a bathroom, right? So like I tried the first technique. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna squeeze my ass cheeks, and I'm sorry if you're drinking or been eating. I'm like, yeah, all right, that's cool, that's good, right? A few minutes pass by, there's another sound, and I'm like, oh no, this is really coming to life, right? So I try the other technique where I'm like leaning on one side and like one of my ass cheeks is really tight and the other one's loose. And then I try the other one. There's like people around me checking me out, but I'm wondering what is going on, right? And then I hear this, and like a bouncer with tons of people wanting to go to the latest show. Like there was no way in hell I'm gonna actually keep this, whatever was in me, come to life, right? And so I thought my last technique, like, well, maybe it's just gas. Like maybe that's what's going on with me, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna keep it cool. I'm gonna keep it really mellow. And so there it is. I lean to one side, and I'm like, brr. I know that wasn't gas. And it was coming really deep at this point. So I held on, I'm sweating, there's music playing, like I don't want to be in that bus, and people are bumping into me, and all of a sudden that 90-degree humidity is just coming to life for me, right? And I was trying to hold on as much as I can, like, come on, God, please, if you're out there, just hold on to my ass cheeks for another 45 minutes, right? So there I am, and I took one big breath, I closed my eyes. And I just went. And I just went, and I went, and I went. And the pants that I was wearing, it was dripping from my boxers onto the stuff. All of a sudden, everything got sticky. I won't sort of cater you with more details than that. But it was a moment in my life that I was just completely humiliated. There's no way I'm a rock star if I'm shitting my pants. Excuse me, all. But the story doesn't end there, though. Moments later, people were like, ¿Qué mierda? What the hell is that? People are looking around, they're looking at their shoe like maybe a dog came in, right? People are crying, and I'm trying as much as I can not to be there. Like, come on, I'm not here right now. Crawling under my skin as there's dripping coming out of right leg. I couldn't hold it, and I felt so humiliated for the first time in my life, or for many times in my life. I felt so lonely. I felt like there was nothing else there. I felt like I didn't exist. And I didn't know what to do about it. And I certainly didn't want to get kicked off the bus. So people were looking around, and moments later, people were getting angry because there was a smell to it, right? There was like, ¿Qué es eso? Like, who is that? What is that? What's going on? And in that time, there's a person I was sitting next to that appeared to be obviously intoxicated. He was sort of stumbling around. He was sitting on the chair. He wasn't really paying attention to anyone. And people started looking at him like, yeah, es el bolo, it's the drunk guy. And I thought, well, how can I get home? I still feel like crap. How can I actually get home? Like, what am I going to do to actually maintain myself in that space? And I thought, and this is a humility moment, and I thought, yeah, it is the bolo. It's not me. It's not me. It's the drunk guy, right? At some point, the bus driver gets word of it because people are starting to create ruckus at this point. It's smelly in there. There's tons of people. The bus driver actually stops on the side of the road. We're about 30 minutes, 40 minutes from my house. The bus driver stops, and everyone's like, yeah, it's the bolo. Meanwhile, the drunk guy's like, what are you talking? No, ¿qué es eso? Like, he didn't understand, and he knew it smelled funny, but he didn't understand, right? And he didn't understand, and it was so painful that everybody mobbed him at that point. Like, no, you gotta go. Like, it's time for you to go. And it was that moment in my life where I could have said, no, actually, I was the one that crapped my pants. But it wasn't, and that's something I live with today. It wasn't me. So they kicked him out of the bus. And the lasting memory that I have of this story is twofold. One is staring at this person as he's cursing at the bus, saying, what the hell? The lasting impression is that visual that I got from this particular person as we're driving past him. Now I feel completely humiliated telling and sharing this story over time. Like, what is it about myself that I can't come to be honest about, right? You know, in the Peace Corps, they say you learn these crazy life lessons that, God, I changed the world and I came back a new person. Like, to hell with whoever said that, right? What I think I learned is two things. Number one, you're gonna get on a crowded bus. You better go to the bathroom before you show up. And so I take with that every day, 5 minutes before I actually leave the house. I think my partner can attest to this. I spend the last 5 minutes before we leave saying, hold on a minute, you never know, I might be on a bus. Thank you all, appreciate it.